So we're on page 205, bottom of 205 of Listen Humanity. This is chapter 3 of the third section. Baba discusses avatarhood. So continuing from the last couple paragraphs of last week, awaken from your ignorance and try at least to understand that in this completely indivisible oneness, not only is the avatar God, but also the ant and the sparrow, and one and all of you are nothing but God. The only apparent difference is in their states of consciousness. The avatar knows that the sparrow is not a sparrow, while the sparrow does not realize this. Being ignorant of its ignorance, it identifies itself as a sparrow. Do not live in ignorance. Do not waste your precious lifetime differentiating and judging your fellow men and women, but learn to long for the love of God, even in the midst of your worldly activities. Live only to find and realize your true identity with your beloved God. Be pure and simple and love all, because all are one. Live a sincere life. Be natural and be honest with yourself. Honesty will guard you against false modesty and will give you the strength of true humility. Spare no pains to help others. Seek no reward other than the gift of divine love. Yearn for this gift sincerely and intensely, and I promise, in the name of my divine honesty, that I will give you much more than you yearn for. Here we have Baba's statement on what must be said about position and abilities. He drives a hard point in differentiating. Sorry, I lost my place. He drives a hard point in differentiating between false modesty, the strength and frankness of true humility, and the blatancy of rank egotism. He then leaves out one sentence. Quote, "This is why I must tell you what I am, the highest of the high," end quote. He does not insist that one believe him, but he states his avatarhood as a literal fact, and it is then one's own responsibility to decide whether to believe him or not. If one rejects Baba's statement that he is the avatar of the age, then there is a chance that one will be right, and therefore able to nod someday in agreement with millions of other people who are not taken in by the claims of another deluded Messiah. If one accepts Baba and his statement that he is the avatar of the age, then there is a chance of having been among the relatively few who believed him and accepted him, and who, as a consequence, had the incomparable privilege of his grace. One cannot help but think in retrospect of the millions who knew of Muhammad and Jesus and Buddha, but who failed to listen to them because the chance seemed so slight that the avatar or even a great spiritual teacher was really at hand. Meher Baba has other comments on this point. In 1953, he gave the following message to his close followers in Dehradun, India. Quote, I want you to make me your constant companion. Think of me more than you think of your own self. The more you think of me, the more you will realize my love for you. Your duty is to keep me constantly with you throughout your thoughts, speech, and actions. They do their duty who surrender to me through their faith and love, guided by their implicit belief in my divinity. They too do their duty who speak ill of me and condemn me through their writings, prompted by their genuine conviction that Baba is a fraud. But those who constantly doubt because they do not know their own minds are the hypocrites. Through false emotions, they tend at times to believe in me, and at other times to gossip slanderously against me. No amount of slander can affect or change me, nor any amount of admiration or praise enhance my divinity. Baba is what he is. I was Baba, I am Baba, and I shall forever remain Baba. In the same general period, he had more to say at Dehradun on the subject of the coming of the Avatar, the reception he receives, and his relation to those who come to him for guidance. Age after age, the infinite God wills, through his infinite mercy, to come among mankind by descending to the human level in a human form. His physical presence among mankind is not understood, and he is looked upon as an ordinary man of the world. When he asserts his divinity by proclaiming himself the avatar of the age, he is worshipped by some who accept him as God and glorified by a few who know him as God on earth. It happens invariably, though, that the rest of humanity condemns him while he is physically among them. Thus, God as man proclaims himself as the avatar and allows himself to be persecuted and tortured, humiliated and condemned by humanity, for whose sake his infinite love has made him stoop so low. Through his very humiliation, he ensures that humanity, in its very act of condemning God's manifestation as the avatar, shall assert, however indirectly, the existence of God in his infinite eternal state. The avatar is always one and the same because God is always one and the same. This eternally one and the same avatar repeats his manifestation from time to time in different cycles. He adopts different human forms. And different names, coming to different places to reveal truth in different clothing and different languages. This he does to raise humanity from the pit of ignorance and help free it from the bondage of delusion. Among the best known and honored manifestations of God as the avatar. The earliest is Zoroaster. He came before Ram, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, and Mohammed. Thousands of years ago, he gave the world the essence of truth in the form of three fundamental precepts: good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. These precepts are constantly unfolded for humanity in one manner and another by the avatar of the age, who leads humanity imperceptibly towards the truth. To put these precepts of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds into practice is not as easy as it would seem, but yet not impossible. To live up to them, though, is as infinitely difficult as to practice a living death in the midst of life. In the world, there are countless sadhus, mahatmas, mahapurushas, saints, yogis, and walis. The few genuine ones of these are in a category of their own, neither on a level with the ordinary human being, nor on a level with that state which is the highest of the high. I am neither a Mahatma nor a Mahapurush, neither sadhu nor saint, neither yogi nor wali. Those who come to me to gain wealth or retain their possessions, to seek relief from suffering, or to help to fulfill their mundane desires, to these I declare once again that I am not sadhu, saint, Mahatma, Mahapurush, or yogi. To seek such things through me is to court utter disappointment. However, such disappointment is only apparent, for eventually it is invariably instrumental in bringing about the complete transformation of one's worldly desires. Sadhus, saints, yogis, walis, and such others who are on the via media can and do perform miracles. They satisfy the transient material needs of individuals who approach them for help. But if I am not a sadhu, saint, yogi, mahapurush, nor wali, then what am I? The natural conclusion would be that either I am just an ordinary human being, or I am the highest of the high. Definitely, I can never be included among those having the intermediary status of real sadhus, saints, yogis, and such like. If I am just an ordinary man, my capabilities and powers are limited. I am no different from an ordinary human being. In such case, people should not expect any supernatural help from me in the form of miracles or spiritual guidance. Also, to approach me to fulfill their desires would be absolutely futile. On the other hand, if I am beyond the level of an ordinary human being, and much beyond the level of saints and yogis, then I must be he. I must be he, highest of the high. In such case, to judge me with the human intellect and to approach me with worldly desires would be the height of ignorance and folly. If I am the highest of the high, my will is law, my wishes govern the law, and my love sustains the universe. then your apparent calamities and transient sufferings are only the outcome of my love for the ultimate good. Therefore, to approach me for deliverance from predicaments and to expect me to satisfy worldly desires would be asking me to do the impossible, to undo what I have already ordained. If you accept Baba in all faith as the highest of the high, it behooves you to lay down your life at his feet rather than crave fulfillment of your desires. Not this one life, but your millions of lives would only be a small sacrifice to lay at the feet of one such as Baba, who is the highest of the high. For Baba's unbounded love is the only sure and unfailing guide which can lead you safely through the innumerable blind alleys of your transient life. They cannot obligate me who surrender their all, body, mind, possessions, with a motive. Nor can I be snared by those who surrender because they understand that to gain the everlasting treasure of bliss, they must relinquish passing possessions. A desire for greater gain still clings to their surrenderance, and therefore the surrender cannot be complete. You must all know that if I am the highest of the high, my role demands that I strip you of all your possessions and wants, consume all your desires, and make you desire less. This I must do rather than satisfy your desires. Sadhus, saints, yogis, and walis can give you what you want, but I take away your wants, free you from attachments, and liberate you from the bondage of ignorance. I am the one to take, not give, what you want. Intellectuals can never understand me through intellect alone. I am the highest of the high. It is impossible for intellect to gauge me, nor can my ways be fathomed by the limited human mind. I am not to be attained by those who, through love of me, stand reverentially by in rapt admiration. I am also not for those who ridicule me and point at me with contempt. Nor am I here to have tens of millions flock around me. I am for the select few who, scattered among the crowd, silently surrender to me their all, body, mind, and possessions. Still more, I am here for those who, having surrendered all, never give another thought to their surrender. All those are mine who are prepared to renounce even the very thought of their renunciation, and who, keeping constant vigil in the midst of intense activity, await their turn to lay down their lives for the cause of truth at a glance from me. Those who have indomitable courage to face cheerfully the worst calamities, who have unshakable faith in me and are eager to fulfill my slightest wish at the cost of happiness and comfort, those indeed truly love me. From my point of view, the atheist who honorably accepts his worldly responsibilities and discharges them conscientiously is far more blessed than the man who thinks he is a devout believer in God and yet shirks the responsibilities apportioned to him by divine law, running instead after sadhus, saints, and yogis to seek relief from the suffering, which ultimately would have affected his liberation. To have also one eye glued on the delightful pleasures of the flesh and to expect to see a spark of eternal bliss with the other is not only impossible, but the height of hypocrisy. I cannot expect you to understand what I want you to know all at once. It is my charge to awaken you from time to time through the ages, sowing the seed in your limited minds, which in due course and with proper attention on your part must germinate, flourish, and bear that fruit of true knowledge, which is your birthright. On the other hand, if, led by your ignorance, you persist in going your own way, none can stop the course of progress you have chosen. For that too is progress, which leads you after innumerable incarnations to realize what I want you to know now. Awake now and save yourself from further entanglement in the maze of delusion and self-created suffering, which is dependent upon your ignorance of the true goal. Listen and strive for freedom by placing ignorance in its proper position. Be honest with yourself and God. It is possible to fool one's neighbors and even the whole world, but it is impossible to escape the knowledge of the omniscient. Such is divine law. Seek me not to extricate yourself from predicaments, but find me in order to surrender yourself wholeheartedly to my will. Do not cling to me for worldly happiness and short-lived comforts, but adhere to me through thick and thin, sacrificing your own happiness and comforts at my feet. Let my happiness be your cheer and my comforts your rest. Do not ask me to bless you with a good job. Wish only to serve me more diligently and honestly without expectation of reward. Never beg me to save your life or the lives of your dear ones. Only beg me to accept you and permit you to lay down your life for me. Never expect me to cure you of your bodily afflictions. Beseech me rather to cure you of your ignorance. Never stretch out your hands to receive anything from me. Hold them high in praise of me, whom you have approached as the highest of the high. If I am the highest of the high, then nothing is impossible for me. However, I have often said that I do not perform miracles to satisfy individual needs, for this would only result in entangling the individual further into the net of ephemeral existence. On the other hand, for the spiritual upliftment and benefit of all humanity and all creatures, at certain periods I do manifest the infinite power I possess in the form of miracles. However, miraculous experiences have often occurred to individuals who love and have faith in me, and these have been attributed to my nazar or grace. But I want everyone to know that it is not fit for those who love me to attribute such miraculous experiences to my state of the highest of the high. If I am the highest of the high, then I am above this illusory play of Maya. Therefore, the miraculous experiences described by those who love me, or by those who love me unknowingly through other channels, are only the product of their own firm faith in me. That unshakable faith often supersedes the course of play of Maya, and thus produces what they describe as miracles. Such experiences derived from firm faith do not entangle those individuals into further binding in illusion, but eventually do good. If I am the highest of the high, then a wish by my universal will can give God realization to one and all in an instant, freeing every creature in creation from the shackles of ignorance. But blessed is knowledge that is gained through the experience of ignorance in accordance with the divine law. Such knowledge is attainable in the midst of ignorance through the guidance of perfect masters and by surrenderance to the highest of the high. End quote. An entire book could be written in commentary on these two important documents. However, I intend to belabor only one point. This is Don Stevens talking. If one forgets, or writing, if one forgets for the moment that these statements are being made by a living man, and if one neglects temporarily the crisis in judgment which they pose, then one cannot but be struck by the fundamental nature of what is said. Here, without question, is a man who knows to the nth degree what he is talking about, and who possesses an insight into an absolute ethics which would tax the greatest hearts and minds. But the residual question which causes the reader to tend to neglect the import of what is being said is the almost unbelievable statement by Baba that he is the, quote, highest of the high. Baba says dispassionately that it is the lot of the avatar to be accepted by only a handful in his lifetime. There would seem no need then for those who accept Baba to try to convince the rest of humanity that it is overlooking the best bet of many lifetimes. However, it is important to look briefly into the meaning of rejection in general terms. Sooner or later, each human being must be willing to annihilate for a time his own sense of self-determination in a sense of absolute trust of another. And we have an asterisk there. Trust in or identification with another human being is not peculiar to the follower of the guru. It has its modern counterpart in the relation of patient to psychoanalyst, of friend to trusted advisor, of one who loves to the beloved. Such a relation apparently involves a very fundamental principle of nature in which the complexities of self can be attacked at their root through the loss or lessening of self in the being of another. Back to the text. Only in this manner can there be the opportunity to comb out the snarls of countless accumulated actions in one's nature. Even when a person is unhappiest, he still has a persistent sense of unconscious hope that his own deliberated actions will one day lead him to success and happiness. Usually, it is only the person who is who has almost entirely ceased to hope, who is willing to take the conscious step of annihilating his own ego in the person of another. For in annihilating his ego, he denies the very core of the quote unquote quote right of free will, of self-determination. And in that destruction, there is bound to go his most stubborn, ego-centered hope for the future. Once it is gone, he is really at sea. There is no landmark, no point of reliance or help. Only that cause or person to whom he has perhaps by now given his allegiance. This is a frightening position, and it is no wonder that most people would prefer to trust their own fallible but quote unquote visible sense of self-determination rather than surrender it to another's possible whims. There are few people who have reached either such desperation in the successive traps of life or enlightenment in the inner processes of the heart to be willing to trust their fate implicitly to another being. This is the challenge which frightens people not only with Baba, but to a degree with all religious personages, faiths, and movements. Baba poses the issue indelibly, however, clearly and repeatedly. For this reason, there is often little opportunity to appreciate the scope and style of his statements. The human challenge they contain is too profound. Then one day, the great teacher passes on. The words can be read with academic interest in their loftiness of precept and the beauty of their phrasing. The rugged, stripped bare challenge of a personal and immediate surrender is no longer present. Then the great man begins to be appreciated. Or is he appreciated really? Actually, I do not think he is. The real importance of such a person is in what is done in the direct personal relationship. The important people are the ones who went through whatever hell there was in fighting the thing through in the intensity of the living challenge. What comes after may have its glory, its beauty, its mass acceptance. But these are a pale shadow to the real man and the vitality of the living relation. This is the challenge for man, and there are always individuals on earth who will present it to him. At some time, he must meet it and finally realize that the one who poses it does not do it for himself, but for love of the people who must know themselves. Jay, could you unmute it if you're able to read now?
Eugene, you want me to try reading?
Yes, please.
Should I try reading?
I think your audio is spotty.
Through losing the self in a perfect being is the essential core of Baba's technique, and it isn't that one's. Okay, next time.
Okay.
You go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, your audio is a little garbled or speeds up and slows down, speeds up, slows down. So I'll keep going. This process of finding oneself through losing the self in a perfect being is the essential core of Baba's technique in dealing with people. All of the puzzling and sometimes distressing admonishments he makes are aimed at this goal. It isn't that one's own self is necessarily a bad thing. It just happens to have the unfortunate property of seeming completely separate. Once having lost oneself in the master's being, not through desire, for that again simply emphasizes the separateness, but through the welding action of a unifying love, then much or even all of the illusion of separateness is lost. Baba's constant exhortation to give up all and come to him is first of all a dramatic but honest effort to get the individual to withdraw his attention from a multitude of distractions. This is the first essential step. The next is to lose one's own self completely in Baba. This is the part which is resisted so mightily. Such a step has absolutely nothing to do with enhancing the prestige of Baba. If he were a sublime egotist, it could. In cold print, the repeated insistence on this point sounds as if Baba might be such a divine egotist. In the presence of Baba, one understands at once that this is completely aside from the true issue. The question of losing oneself at Baba may still be acute even after meeting Baba, but the possibility of Baba's involvement for Baba's own personal reasons falls out of the picture. The issue now is the real extent of one's trust and love versus the persistent habit of one's sense of separateness. In this arena, the true battle is waged. It is an astonishingly passive battle on Baba's part. He is simply himself and shows constantly an unbelievable forgiveness and thoughtfulness. How can one's ego go on constantly rebelling against him? Wherever one's rebellion flares, it is met only by understanding and compassion. Finally, rebellion turns back upon itself, and there is rebellion against rebellion itself. The wall of separative egotism is breached at this point in identification with another human being. This is the way known to lovers, to the mystics of the world religions, and to many who deal honestly and patiently with the deepest needs of modern man. The only question is how well the person to whom one identifies knows his own self. The positive effects resulting from the identification will depend largely on the answer. Even in the event that there is no greater depth of perception of self in the other, the fact of winning some sense of oneness is nevertheless a positive gain in the direction of reality. On the other hand, if there is greater knowledge of the self in the other being, then the possibilities of the situation are rich. To realize those possibilities, the link between the two must be completely unobstructed, for the possibilities can be completely exhausted only if there is a complete sense of oneness, born of honesty, sincerity, and true depth of feeling. This means that there can be no sense of separateness or of personal interest in contrast to that of the other person. This would act only as a checkpoint for the free flow of self to self. The age old question of desire owes its continuing importance to its effect on this linking bridge of oneness. Desire has a simple statement to make: I desire you. It is only necessary to reflect on one's own desires to understand that they emphasize the separation of the one who desires and the unobtainable nature of the object desired. Therefore, desire is a problem, not primarily because of the physical element, which is so deeply involved, but because of the emotional element of separateness, which feeds it. Love also has a very simple statement to make: I love you. One has only to reflect for a few moments to find that here the inner sense is quite different, being one of closeness, of security, in a word, of oneness. This is why love has always instinctively been respected, praised, and sought. It feeds man and woman and brings him and her far in the direction of knowing his or her own self through knowing another. If lust had been ordained to have this effect, lust would have been rightfully acclaimed by the poets and mystics. Social customs and taboos are based in the long run on an almost unerring sense of what generally aids or hinders man in his constant endeavor to find his real self. Morality is not an act of piety, but of effort to lay the climate in which the seed of self-knowledge may sprout. When one is moral for the approval of society, then one is immoral, and the effort is worse than worthless. When one is moral because of deep internal needs, then the sun really shines. But one should never assume that one man's morality is another's. Social morality bears the same relationship to the love of another as religion does to the guiding of man to find his soul. It is a helpful first step, but there must be room for rapid change and progress when the real quarry comes in sight. Then morality becomes really alive, is self-generated, and often has little resemblance to the average conventionalized version. All morality, whether social or personal, is aimed at the eventual development of the most honest and therefore the most complete love of another person. The love of another person is one of the greatest goods because it strips bare the self and fuses it into the substance of another. As this happens, it is realized dimly or intensely that no fusion was necessary. The oneness was there all the time. As the sense of oneness grows, there is the possibility of plumbing to the depths of oneself through the sense of realization of self in another. At this point enters the mystic, the great religious teacher, the saint, the guru, the Messiah. It is possible to realize one's own self, one's own true nature, completely and irrevocably through establishing a perfect sense of oneness with one who has perfectly realized himself. Such a person is called God realized, for the, for the theorem also states that the one who has perfectly realized himself has discovered that he and the Father are one. Therefore, the immense importance of the Christ, for in him resides the greatest opportunity to achieve perfect oneness with the divine being. If one studies Meher Baba's statements in the context of this ultimate challenge to achieve the ultimate goal, then they will be seen to lead with unvarying straightness to this point. One may not be able to determine for oneself whether Baba is the perfect instrument for the achieving of this goal, but if he is not, then he has laid out the necessary course with astonishing clarity. One final time, let us let Meher Baba speak for himself on this point. Quote, I am the one so many seek and so few find. No amount of intellect can fathom me. No amount of austerity can attain me. Only when one loves me and loses oneself in me am I found. End quote. And again, quote, All these statements and messages can lead us nowhere on the spiritual path. Reasoning and mental conviction also lead us nowhere. Even actual experience falls short of the highest state. The more you try to understand God, the less you understand him. How can he, who is beyond all explaining, be described? His being infinitely easy to know has rendered him infinitely difficult. The secret is that you have to become what you already are. You can know me as one of you and one in you only when the veils of separateness are lifted. And this can be done if you love me honestly and wholeheartedly. Lose yourself in Baba, and you will find that you eternally were Baba. There can be no compromise in love. It has either to be full or not at all. I say with divine authority that I am the Ancient One and the slave of those who really love me. Jay, would you like to try again? You might be in a different location, better, um, better signal.
Yeah. Let's see. Where is it? A new chapter?
Yeah, it's one of the appendixes, the first appendix.
Okay. Oh, okay. There we go. Appendix 1. Directions given by Meher Baba, November 1955. Bhava's weeks, and in general for all connected with Baba. I want you to read carefully and absorb these directions, as well as the other items arranged alongside, namely, 1. The frame gist of the circular number 25 of January 5, 1955. 2. The 2 charts on God and love. 3. The list of donations for the Sahavas weeks. No one, and that also includes those who have come for the Sahavas, should under any circumstances, either directly or indirectly, ask me for favors, rewards, money, jobs, health, or other material things, not even for spiritual gain. The best is not to ask for anything. If anything at all is to be asked for, then first one should ponder whether one has the required degree of determination and courage to ask for the love of Baba. If one has that much determination and courage, one should be ready to surrender so completely as literally to give up and let go of everything, body, mind, and heart. And the self should be able to remain alive and dead simultaneously. To all of you who believe and feel that I am the avatar, I say that there is no need at all to ask me for anything, because I must know best when and what to do for one and all, and what to give to one and all. Your faith and belief demand then that you should feel happy to be resigned equally to whatever comes from me or whatever is taken away by me. As and when I bless anyone with peace and plenty, money and children, name and fame, etc., he and others should not feel elated at this. Their concern should be only to keep their minds and hearts focused on what they believe me to be, the one reality. If I am free to give as I wish, I must also remain free to take. Should I read the asterisk? Oh, did you already? Take away as and when I deem it best, in any way, at any time. That also means that as and when I take anything away from anyone, he should not raise a cry, because his concern must likewise remain focused on my reality and not on the thing I take away. From the beginning,
Oh, sorry, Jay. Yeah,
oh,
go ahead with the star and the dagger.
okay, asterisk. These directions, quote unquote, as well as the other items mentioned, were posted on a sort of bulletin board inside the hall in which most of the Sahavas meetings were held. And then the other one is the donations were made by various of the Indian devotees. From the beginning of all beginnings, I have been saying, I say it now, and to the end of ends, I will say it, that he who loves God becomes God. It is a fact that I have come amongst you. One of these days, the whole world will come to realize how I have come, where I have come from, and the purpose of my coming. I repeat only again that I have come neither to establish pants and jats, groups and classes, nor to establish mandirs, masjids, churches, and ashrams in the world. I have come to receive the beauty and give the blessings of love. All else but God, whether rites, rituals, or ceremonies in the name of religion, worldly possessions, family, money, or one's own physical body, all else but God is illusion. In response to my call to one and all to leave all and come to me, some have come. A few have responded for the sake of spiritual enlightenment, others to gain peace and escape from worldly strife and entanglements, while a few have come through their love for me to find me as I am. Those who have come to me have naturally become dependent upon me, but in spite of that, I, as Baba, remain free and independent. I have been seeing to their requirements with the money which has been coming in and going out in the spirit of love. I accept with love what is offered to me with love, and I also disperse it out of love. I neither obtain money through miracles, nor am I connected with any money-making business. There are those who have offered what they can spare, and there are those who have dedicated their all to me and to my cause of love, unmindful of money for the sake of money. Under the existing conditions of no promises from me, no bindings upon me, and no undertakings by me, my dependents must also be made to feel quite free of their material dependence upon me. Thus, they will be able to maintain a pure relationship of love for the sake of love. I now wish to be outwardly what I always am inwardly, living solely in love, for love, and with love. In that spirit, the whole world
So those were the conditions laid down by Baba to his followers in circular number 25. Um, uh, in that spirit, the whole world Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, yes. Could live with me irrespective of whether or not there happened to be any provision for food and shelter for the today's, quote unquote, as well as for the, quote, tomorrows. As it is, I'm free and no bindings touch me to bother about arrangements for others. I now want, I now want love to reign supreme outwardly as it all explain love. There are as many ways of our men. There can thus be no end to the understanding of them except through obedience based on love. And through love. Sorry, Eugene, can you continue?
Yeah, it's horrible
Sorry about that.
when the
I don't
throat
have any
gets
water right now.
scratchy. Let me just go from the top of the page. Could live with could live with me irrespective of whether or not there happened to be any provision for food and shelter for the todays as well as for the tomorrows. As it is, I am free and no bindings touch me, but I should also be free of the need to bother about arrangements for others. I now want love to reign supreme outwardly, as it always does inwardly in me. How can one explain love? There are as many ways of explaining love and obedience as there are men. There can thus be no end to the understanding of them except through obedience based on love and through love itself. All great saints, teachers, and masters say the same thing in one way or another. When the emphasis is laid on love for the sake of love, or failing that, on obedience in the cause of love. For spontaneous surrender, the heart must, so to speak, be worn on one's sleeve. One must be ever ready to place one's neck under the ever sharp knife of command of the beloved, and the head should figuratively be detached in order that it might be completely surrendered at the Master's feet. Obedience should be so complete that one's concern with it makes one as much awake to possibilities as it makes one deaf to impossibilities, as envisaged by the poet. And here we have a language that I don't know, but I'll take a stab at it. Darm, Darmiyani Kar Daria. Takta Bandam Kardai. Bad Mi Guike Daman Ter Makun Hoshyar Bash. In that translation, I was tied to a raft and thrown in the ocean. And then I was warned to be careful not to let my robe get wet. Yet all this does not and cannot explain the required degree of continued readiness for love and obedience to love. In fact, one of the three reasons for this sahabas is to help you grasp what love and obedience really mean. You must have such a clear picture in your minds of this sahabas as to forget completely such things as declarations, messages, and discourses by me. This is not an occasion for the fulfillment or the taking and breaking of past and future promises. You have got to remove from your minds any picture of me upon a dais and you sitting before me, as has been the experience of most of you present here. I want you to be with me, near me, and before me in an entirely different atmosphere, so that you can freely breathe the air of my personal presence. We must be together as intimately as if we were living under the same roof for no purpose other than that of living with each other and for each other. Do not look forward to any functions, meetings, timetables, programs, agendas, or any cut and dried plans. You have simply to be near me all the time that I remain with you, playing, sitting, walking, joking, discussing serious things, or listening to stories. I want you to live with me the day to day life I normally lead. You are not expected to read, study, meditate, or pray, but to feel at home with me as naturally and unreservedly as you do at home in the midst of your own family and friends. I want you to be your natural selves, putting aside all the superficial niceties one usually assumes in social life. Being in my company, watching me, and being watched by me, you will automatically learn and unlearn a lot which no amount of teaching can convey. In short, there are three reasons for this Sahavas program. One, to give you my closest company in order to bring out the oneness between us. Two, to help you understand love and obedience and to make you imbibe these twin aspects of the nectar of the infinite existence behind all life. Three, to show you how to do my work of spreading love. However much I may explain, you cannot have a true idea of the enormous strain on my physical body in these last 12 months. To say the least, I am utterly exhausted physically, yet I intend to exert myself further for the whole Sahavas month in order to impress thoroughly upon you certain points. There are points which I have got to drive in deeper and deeper, not only for you all who are able to be near me physically, but for all others also who love me and obey me, as well as for other reasons which are not apparent here and now. These points you will have to grasp through the three reasons of the Savas as given above. Therefore, during the 7 days, above everything else, forget your worries, comforts, discomforts, home and business affairs. In short, forget about everything concerning your daily life except your present life here with me. As I have stated, I have offered this harvest at the cost to me of additional physical exertion because of all who love me and obey me, including those who are physically absent. The only explanations you should expect from me during this office will be on one, love, two, obedience, three, work of spreading my love, four, freedom from the apparent binding of those dependent on me. I want you all to take particular note that I would feel happy if each one of you not only possessed but read and but re- possessed but read and digested God Speaks from the first to the last page as the last book of its kind by me. I will likewise be happy if those amongst you who can possibly do so will see that this work is translated and made available in as many languages as possible for those who cannot read and understand English. This is a good place to stop. So, um, top of page 244 is where we're stopping, and we'll continue next week.